Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first item of business is the adoption of the minutes of this committee's meeting held Monday, March 22nd. The staff recommendation is to approve those minutes.
So moved. Moved by Councillor Robinson. Second, Councillor Reamer. All in favor? Passed. Thank you.
Item 2 is a delegation. I'd like to invite Judy Salvador from the Westwood Plateau Community Association to come forward.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Judy. Can you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Salvador, 1578 Place, Coquitlam.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Today I represent the WPCA, the Westwood Plateau Community Association.
We don't have a mic.
We appreciate it.
We don't have a mic.
The mic's not on.
Yeah.
It's on now.
Got to have the right connection. Hey, thank you very much. I represent the WPCA today, which is the Westwood Plateau Community Association. And I just first want to say we did appreciate the opportunity to work with city staff, and we await their recommendations and the definition of intensive recreation and any other new designations that may come forward. In the meantime, however, as our association has not had an opportunity to formally present our position to council, for the record, we respectfully request that we be permitted to appear at the council meeting on April the 19th, 2010. We also request the Land Use Committee resubmit to Council the motion made by Councillor Reamer to rescind the letter to Metro Vancouver changing land use designations, with notice to that Coquitlam is working on proposed designations for all golf lands and will resubmit in due course. The residents of the Westwood Plateau have indicated that they cannot rest easy until this has been done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have a few questions. I have a question, and probably Councillor Robinson does as well. My question is this. Our staff report, as a result of the meeting on March 31st that was held, will be coming out on April the 26th. We were wondering if you might wish to wait until after that report comes out. I have no idea what is going to be contained within that report, because it just seemed a lot of work for you to do a presentation before and then a presentation after.
Well, actually, we would prefer not to, because we had asked to be put onto a council meeting at an earlier time. So I think the timing is actually good. So no, I would like to stay on that meeting, please.
Councillor Robinson.
Well, actually, I want to ask a staff question. When will we be getting that report? April 26th?
Through the chair, the report will be public on April the 23rd, that Friday before the, so council will be getting it on the 22nd in the evening.
And so our next council meeting, because I understand that they would like to present to council, so the next council meeting would be the first Monday in May.
That's correct. That's correct.
May 3rd. Okay. So from my perspective, because we have to make decisions based on all the information, I tend to agree with Councillor Reamer that having you present, I think, is valid and valuable, but let's make it a meaningful experience that we have all the information when you make your presentation. So I would actually encourage you to make your presentation on May 3rd, because that way we can have a more meaningful dialogue and we can have a richer experience, and perhaps then make the right decision.
May 3rd it is.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Robinson, we do need a motion for that.
Yeah, simply a motion to that this committee invites the Westwood Plateau Community Association to appear as a delegation before council on May 3rd.
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. Item 3 is a report of the General Manager of Planning and Development. It concerns the proposed official community plan amendment for community greenhouse gas reduction, it's Bill 27. The bylaw number is 4110. There's a series of 4 staff recommendations. Give first reading to the bylaw that this bylaw be considered in conjunction with the appropriate legislation, that it be referred to public hearing along with its related application, and that copies of the report be sent to a series of public bodies identified in the agenda.
I have a question.
Okay, Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. I think this is a great start, and I look forward to sort of seeing us implement it. I do have some, I guess, a comment. On page 5 of the report, I guess, is it the report? No, sorry, on page 5 of the package that we have, not the actual report, it talks about the each level of government has influence over a range of individual variables, and it's important to recognize that actions at one level of government will impact the effectiveness of other actions. We talked about the tailpipe emissions, and that's at a provincial level. And the report itself, if I recall, doesn't really speak to these other levels of government, and I'm feeling a little bit like I'd like to make a stronger statement. And so I'm wanting to know if in some sort of cover letter when we send this out to other agencies that we can make it really clear that at the local level, these are the things that we can do, but we really need, like, we can't work in silos, we can't work independent of other levels of government. Something that's just really much more forceful, that this needs to be a collaborative effort at all 3 levels of government. And if we don't have that, then we're just not going to meet our targets. Like, I think we need to be bold and clear, and that everyone has to step up to the plate. So,
Janice?
Good, Madam Chair, a good question. And we can take council or the committee's direction and council's direction if there's stronger wording wanted, or in the referral letter. I'm just going to direct. There is a reference in the OC, the proposed OC policy, about on page 2 of the proposed bylaw, about encouraging regional, provincial, federal governments to improve, and we can strengthen that. We can strengthen that wording.
Can we demand? It's only because, I mean, encouraging is lovely, and we've encouraged before. We can encourage transit. We've been encouraging Evergreen Line for how long? And we can encourage all we want. It doesn't mean that these other levels of government act, and perhaps for their own very good reason, but I think we need to realize that it feeds back on our ability to meet our targets.
And again, Madam Chair, that's exactly it in terms of we've gone through this process, and there were clear assumptions that the federal and provincial government would be stepping up to do its part on tailgate. So we can, for tailpipe emissions is one example, the implementation of Evergreen by 2014, et cetera, et cetera. So we can have stronger wording if the committee wants.
Yeah, or even if there's like, and if Evergreen Line does not come by 2014, we will not meet our targets. Like, it's like one is contingent on the other. It's not. We just need, that's the only thing that makes me anxious about setting targets, is that if we're dependent on others, it's not completely in our control, then we need to be very, very clear that if others don't meet their targets, we're not going to meet ours. And that's not because we didn't put the energy, didn't put the effort, didn't make the commitment.
We can take that back and look at stronger wording in that area in the policy.
Thank you. I think Mr. Perry has something.
Okay, thank you. I'm just, I've got a quick question, and then Councillor Sikora will get to you. Yes. My question is with respect to number 4 and those we send the copies of the OCP amendment bylaw to. I noticed that they're governmental organizations, and I'm assuming that's because it's within the Local Government Act. I'm wondering if we could please also send copies to those who have provided us feedback and input to date.
Yes. Yep, Madam Chair, yes, we will be sending this out to those people that have participated in the process. We have a distribution list, and as well as the Vancouver Area Cycling Coalition.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sikora.
Yeah, thank you very much. I noticed that the item 2, in accordance with the Local Government Act, to consider bylaw number 4110 and 2010 in conjunction with the 210 and 214 financial plan bylaw number 4079, 209, and the regional solid waste management plan. Now, I don't see anything before me here. I know that this is coming to us again on Monday during the council meeting, but I don't see any backup material here. What is this solid waste, regional solid waste management plan? We don't have a plan. So what are we talking about? What are we voting on?
Mr. Innes?
Good question through the chair to Councillor Sikora. A good question. It is the Metro Vancouver Regional Solid Waste Management Plan. We're obligated to review our OCP amendments against the city's financial plan and the Solid Waste Regional Plan. That's in place right now, so we can provide more information before council.
Or next Monday's
before
meeting.
next Monday.
Yeah, I would much rather had a lot of more information to see what is it that I'm going to be voting on.
Sure.
You know, and
what's before the committee is the greenhouse gas emissions reduction targets specifically. But what we can do is provide that additional information in advance of council.
And what you're talking about is a regional waste plan for Coquitlam, or for the whole region?
It's for the region.
Well, they don't have any plan.
What we'll do is we'll provide more additional information in advance of council next week.
So what kind of report do you think we'll be able to get if they don't have a plan? Outside of that last Friday, there was, from our own council, Mayor Stewart voted for the incineration, and Councillor Adamson voted against incineration. So I don't know.
Point of information.
What's happening here?
Councillor Sikora doesn't have it exactly right, but I'll clear it up later.
Okay, already. Is that...
Yeah,
okay.
I'd just like to know a little more about it and see what's coming before us next Monday.
We'll get some more information before next Monday's meeting. Thank you. Mayor Stewart.
Thank you. There is actually a regional solid waste management plan in effect right now. Right. What is it? There is one, right?
Yes.
So it's not like we're absent a regional solid waste management
and that's why I mentioned that
there has been one for years.
That's one.
And we've got a current one.
Yeah, and that's what
and if we don't pass the new one, we still have a current one.
That's correct.
The vote on Friday, that was a vote to submit the current draft to a public consultation process at regional government. It wasn't a vote for incineration, although there was incineration in the plan. It was a vote to submit it to a public consultation process. I just want to clear that up. Well, on the plan.
Yeah, also including.
I'm sorry. I have the chair. I have the chair.
Mayor Stewart has the floor.
I have the floor, Councillor Sikora. Incineration is one of the components in the plan. The plan hasn't been voted on. I haven't voted on the plan. I'm actually against incineration. As you know, the motion was to submit it to public consultation. Councillor Sikora, your facts are wrong.
Mayor Stewart, did you have a question with regards to the strategy plan?
No,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will need a motion to move this forward. Councillor Robinson?
Madam Chair?
Councillor Sikora.
I realize that, Council, or Mayor Stewart, but the fact is you did vote in favor of consultation for incineration. One of the things that you want to do is study the incineration. Now, if you're against incineration, why would you even have voted for it to even go to consultation of any type for incineration? You know, I mean, it behooves me. How can one be one way today, tomorrow you're another way, and you don't know which way you're going? Tell us what is it, and you didn't even consult with our council members how you should be voting on the GVD. We are your bosses as far as to the GVD is concerned, and you should consult the council members how you're going to vote at the GVD. You didn't do that.
Okay, I'll allow Mayor Stewart to respond.
Councillor Sikora knows that the representatives that go to Metro Vancouver do not represent their councils. They do not represent their councils. They're actually sworn to not represent their councils. They're sworn to vote. I don't know that Councillor Asmundson consulted with council because he certainly didn't consult with council on his vote. But a great many people around the table are not in favor of incineration. But I'm always in favor of trying to understand what the public perceives of things, and the motion was to have public consultation on the plan as it was, the draft plan as it existed. I voted for the public consultation because that's what the motion was. I'll never vote against public consultation.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
I'd actually like to make a motion to move these 4 items.
Okay, moved by Councillor Robinson. Second? I'll second.
Second.
Mayor Stewart, seconds. All in favor? Thank you. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Next item, item 4, concerns a proposed road cancellation application adjacent to 2980 Guildford Way. It's Bylaw 4077. Staff recommendations that Council give first, second, and third readings to Coquitlam Highway Dedication Cancellation Bylaw 4077 and direct that this bylaw be advertised in accordance with relevant legislation.
I'll move this motion, and I have just a comment.
Okay, moved by Councillor Robinson. Second? I'll second.
My comment is, when I first saw this and I looked at the map and I thought, oh no, we can't do that. We can't cancel it. If this is a perfect connection. And then I looked in the staff review and was pleased to see that it'll be maintained as a future pedestrian and bicycle connection. So I'm thrilled that that we're keeping that in mind, that this is an important grid. I've been reading some more Jane Jacobs and talking about that fine grain and how we need to get people moving and walking using other forms other than vehicles. So thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you. All in favor? Passes. Thank you. Next item.
Next item, item 5, relates to an authorization for issuance of a development permit for a 44-unit street-oriented village home development at 1299 Coast Meridian Road. The staff recommendation is that Council approve the signing and sealing of this development permit and that the Mayor and City Clerk be authorized to execute it.
Thank you.
I have a question that's I have lots of questions today.
Councillor Robinson?
Oh, sorry. You were looking. The pedestrian trail that's talked about in this, where is it going? I'm trying to figure that out in these maps, and I don't know if I'm just not seeing it. It talks about that the BC statutory right-of-way is bounded as well as a pedestrian trail that the applicant is proposing to provide a connection to from the site. Can we put this up and you can show me where it's going to go? Would that be possible?
Thank you. Please come to the front. Thank you.
There's a large hydro right along the eastern edge of the property. And there's a community trail that's coming down through there, and it'll hook at the bottom.
Can you just point that out?
Can you point it on there rather? Yeah. Right. Okay. So the hydro right of way goes down and then it turns. It turns west.
The hydro right of way actually turns east, but there'll be a connection to the west.
Okay, it'll be a connection. That's what I just wanted to know. And so this area called number 1 up at the top, what's there? What's it planned to be? Do we know?
Through the chair, that particular site was Build's proposed commercial site.
Thank you.
Okay.
So the path will connect the commercial site along the back, pretty much to Mason Avenue and Gislason.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. Does anybody have any? Councillor McDonnell.
Thank you. This path, wait. I thought you were going to get away, didn't you? How big or how long is this pathway that's being proposed from the development to the other trail?
It's a connection at the southern edge of the property. So they're not.
Is it a lengthy trail? And the reason I'm asking, because it says there's no financial impacts. However, if it's a longer trail, we're going to have to maintain it, so there will be a financial impact here. So, if it's a long trail.
The architect is here, and perhaps they'd be willing to speak to the extent of the trail connection that they're proposing at the southern edge there.
I'd like to hear that because I'd like to hear what our maintenance costs will be.
Okay, could the architect from Ramsey Warden please step forward? Thank you. Good afternoon. Welcome.
So my question to you is how the length of the trail, and what kind of a trail it's going to be, because obviously, once this is all completed, the city will have to take over maintenance of this trail. So.
Right.
But if it's not a big one, it's not a big deal.
It's just going to be a very small trail because there's actually a park right along the east-west from Coast Meridian to the Toronto Street. Now, what we're proposing is there's a back driveway to the back of the development, and there's just a short connection. I'm not quite sure how long it's going to be yet, but we're talking about this area here. It's a small path from the driveway to the pedestrian path.
Oh, okay. Sure.
It's not.
It doesn't run the whole length of the way over to the other
Okay.
road.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Okay, we'll need a mover.
I'll move.
And I'll second. All in favor? Thank you. Next item.
Next item is the preliminary report on an application for a citywide official community plan amendment bylaw 4104 and a zoning amendment bylaw 4105, as well as a 5% park dedication provisions for a proposed subdivision at 1395, 1403 Coast Meridian Road, 3400 and 3410 Highland Drive, and 3409, 3415, 3421, and 3431 Queenston Avenue. There's a series of 5 recommendations that the bylaws be referred to public hearing, that they be considered in accordance with the financial plan and the Metro Vancouver Solid Waste Plan, and that in accordance with Section 941 of the Local Government Act, that the owner of the proposed subdivision provide lands that equal 5% of the area being subdivided. We have the proponent. The proponent has requested to present on this item prior to discussion continuing.
Thank you. Mr. Raymond Nothstein, please. Welcome and thank you for coming today.
Thank you. I'll be using that, so is the microphone available?
I'll turn that up, and if you want to put that on, I'll make sure that it's...
It's a nice picture. Very nice.
Thank you. Thank you very much. For the record, my name is Raymond Nothstein, Development Manager of Westbuild Holdings, 1450 Johnson Street in Coquitlam. I'd like to thank the committee for the opportunity to talk about Westbuild's and our joining neighbors application. This is a joint application for what we call our SC1 site, Smiling Creek 1. We use very sexy marketing names at this level. This air photo was taken just a couple of weeks ago. It shows the site in context of the boundary road of Coast, Highland, and Queenston's Avenue, with the surrounding development that is taking place already. This next illustration shows the boundary of the parcels under consideration here in the context of the existing neighborhood plan. The existing neighborhood plan is made up of a combination of RS7 and RS8 single-family homes for a total of approximately 80 lots. Also, there is a RTM1 multifamily townhouse site that could accommodate approximately 24 townhouse units. The plan also anticipates use of back lanes and a mid-block north-south road. Same context for this illustration, but this shows the application that is in front of committee and moving hopefully forward to council. The subdivision that you see in front of you is a culmination of over 3 years of community consultation with our neighbors, working with staff on technical and planning issues. As the staff report states, the application meets the neighborhood plan with what I would describe as 4 minor changes, and that is the elimination of the back lanes here, here, and up here, as shown in the neighborhood plan. And as the report points out, this is due to the steepness of the site and other operational and safety constraints. The other change is that we've gone from RS7, RS8 combination of single-family homes to RS8 only for a total of 72 homes versus the approximately 80 that could have been accommodated in the neighborhood plan. And this is primarily due to the size of the site and the parcel or the single-family home sites that come out of this. They work better as an RS8 rather than RS7. We've also suggested moving the townhouse complex from the back of these two lots over to this 1 acre site, which we believe for a number of reasons to be more appropriate for multifamily. At the rear of if we assume that there was a possibility of about 24 multifamily for this full site, if we take away half, call it 11 or 12, we anticipate that somewhere upwards of 15 units could go on to this other site. Last is you'll see that we have removed the north-south road due to, once again, safety, construction, operational constraints. But we believe that it's necessary to break up the length of that block and to also create or make sure that we've got pedestrian accessibility throughout it. So we've replaced it with a walkway, and I'll talk more about that. This is an illustration of how the project may look upon completion. What I'll do is just describe some of the features of this application. So moving from left to right, from west to east, along Coast Meridian, we are preserving and enhancing a roadside ditch that has food and nutrient value into the whole creek system of the hill. And what that means is that these homes facing coast won't actually be able to access Coast Meridian, but they will architecturally front onto that street. They will be accessed off of this road, shown in the original neighborhood plan as a back lane. What we've suggested is this be widened out and that a sidewalk be added. So we're increasing pedestrian and vehicle safety and access as compared to the neighborhood plan. We will also be building the future extension of Princeton Avenue connecting onto Coast Meridian. We've widened the area at the connection to Coast Meridian so that we can put in a landscape median, a detail that wasn't thought of at the local plan or the neighborhood plan at that time. We will also be building a parallel road to the north. In the neighborhood plan, this was shown as a local road. We've upped this a little bit to a community local standard, and what this will do is allow for on-street parking, which would not have been available with the local road as per the neighborhood plan. Getting back to the walkway, we are proposing the walkway be split this site, and with this application, the only walkway or the only portions of this walkway that will be constructed or used are those that are in the application lands on the Westfield lands. So through the site here, connecting through to the park. There certainly is concern from adjacent owners here about that walkway in the future. There will be no partial walkway and trespass of lands, but should this land ever come forward for development, staff and council at that time would then consider what is correct for that site. We've also, with this application, we're anticipating the neighborhood park as per the plan, and this will come about because Westfield has been able to purchase those two properties off of the existing owners, and that has enabled us to bring this into the full application and get the park into the city hands sooner than anticipated. The Sobol Street, for the short section that we will be able to construct this, is exactly as per the alignment in the neighborhood plan, addressing the concern of a neighbor to the north where we had done a different alignment on an earlier version, but we've heard those concerns clearly and moved it back to the original alignment. In doing so, it created a bit of a larger site here, this approximately 1 acre site. And once again, what we're proposing, and this is working with the two owners here, they are co-applicants with us on this, with a preference for single family at the rear of their lots. What we're suggesting is that that the density that could have been there be moved to this site, which is more appropriate. It's a larger site. We'll be able to work with the green space. And lastly, there is the protection and enhancement of the existing creek there, where we are keeping wind-firm trees and doing additional plantings, and it has a 10-meter SPIA. So in closing, we believe this application meets the goals and direction of the official community plan and the neighborhood plan. The overall housing count is on target, and the mix of singles to multifamily is also on target. Street fronting townhouses can still be built at some point in the future should those owners wish to come forward with a subdivision application. The goals of the transportation network, as shown in the plan, are being met, and we believe that pedestrian safety and choice are improved with this plan versus what was shown in the neighborhood plan. And as I pointed out lastly, due to the recent purchase of these lands, we've been able to bring the park on board as well. So I've touched very quickly on a number of issues, and I'm certainly willing to take questions.
Thank you. I have a few questions. With respect to the townhouses there, and particularly on the northerly portion, what sort of barrier will be in between those townhouses and 3440 and 3450 Highland?
At this time, we don't know, and that what we're looking for is rezoning. This is an illustration of what the townhouse might look like. Whoever we sell that to would then come forward with their development application. So, not trying to skirt the question, but I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, no, I appreciate that, because the way you've got everything laid out here, it actually looks like there will be some space in between those lower lots and the townhouses, whereas fewer, not as much space up on the north end there. So other than that, it looks great. I don't have any further questions. I'll be interested to hear what people have to say during the public hearing, because we have received some initial feedback on both sides. So thank you very much. Councillor Robinson.
I just to clarify, so the initial plan had 114 units total, right? And now it's 87?
There's a bit of confusion here. Since we made our application, we've gone back and looked at the neighborhood plan and done some more sketching on it for what could be. So unfortunately, there's a bit of discrepancy with the numbers that I'm showing here versus the staff report. The staff report showed that we were, I think, plus or minus 2 or 4. What we felt was, as we've worked with these other parcels now, is that we could, and the numbers, which you may not be able to see from here, but we are proposing 86 units. It's the 72 singles, which are quite certain, and we're suggesting it would be about 15 units for the townhouse site. If we were to come forward with the neighborhood plan as proposed, I believe we could get 92 units in there now. Mm-hmm. So we're coming forward with less units than the neighborhood plan, and that does not include the future of these sites here. Bear in mind, we're only working on the back half. The existing very nice homes are staying in place. Does not include the fronts of those properties with the same criteria.
Okay. So would we, and I don't know if this is a staff question, so I'll let you off, Raymond. So I'm just looking for, it's the density question. Are we talking apples and apples in terms of density?
Tiffany?
Thank you. Through the chair, yes, we are, from what I understand from Tom, is that we are pretty much right on target with regard to what was proposed in the neighborhood plan.
Okay, thank you. That's great. I have just one other observation. I'm prepared to move this on to public hearing because I think it's important to get public input. We already have had some, and what's interesting is the supportive comments that we're getting are coming from those whose parcels are to be developed. And the ones that are concerned about it are coming from those whose lands are not being developed. And so I think it's just really important that we hear from a broader audience. And so I would encourage Westville to not maybe, talk to those others so that we can get just a broader perspective, because that's one of the things that's important to me.
If I may, starting in 2007, we have met with the neighbors ongoing continuously. We've made every effort to contact them, especially, well, actually everyone, but the our two neighbors that have valid concerns. We've been in ongoing discussion with them as well. And it's from these discussions that we have joint application with other neighbors in this area.
Great. And I do want to point out just one last thing, is that the Ratepayers Association supports it. So that, I think, says something. So I'm pleased to move this forward. I'll make the motion to move it forward to public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder? Or Mayor Stewart, you'd like to speak?
I'll second as well. And then I'm curious as to a couple of comments you made, and it might be Ray, it might be staff. I'm trying to understand the width of pavement that is being proposed here compared to the width of roadway that was originally in the plan. You said it used to be a local road, which wouldn't have permitted parking. Council, of course, knows of the challenges we're facing trying to address parking, on-street parking in other areas of this development, and once and for all, I think we ought to be examining this issue and figuring out how wide are those roadways going to be so that we're not going to be burdening the neighborhood with a lack of on-street parking if that was anticipated by the residents when they moved in. So you're anxious to answer the question, even though I'm not sure what I asked, but go ahead.
Well, I'm not sure what I'll answer. But in the neighborhood plan, it was anticipated that this north-south road the width of that would accommodate the on-street parking. But in looking at the technical feasibility of that road, it was realized, first of all, it was very steep, and by the time you had your intersections and planed out to the next one, there would be very little on-street parking actually available. So rather, with direction from staff, which we found to be very valid, we've widened this road versus what it should have been in the neighborhood plan. In the neighborhood plan, this would not have accommodated the parking. In this proposal, it does. So we're able to get more on-street parking with this plan than the original neighborhood plan would have anticipated.
Widened to what? What width? Yeah, that's one.
The current local road standard has an 8-meter wide pavement, and that does include the ability for on-street parking. It doesn't not exclude parking. The proposed, double negative there?
Triple negative,
yeah. The community local road standard is a 10-meter wide pavement, just slightly wider, will allow for parking on both sides of the road and allow travel in between. It's just a slight increase of about 2 meters of pavement width.
Now the challenge we have in a couple of other neighborhoods where parking on both sides of an 8-meter pavement produces not enough room for a fire truck if, I guess, one of the vehicles is wider than a passenger vehicle. Now that's resolved here. It's still not 2 cars passing in the middle of there, but you're suggesting this should answer.
Well, the current local bylaw or local road standard of 8 meters is in our bylaw and has been proven out that you can get vehicles through with parking on both sides. It's a little tight, however, but it does work. And this wider standard of 10 meters just provides a little bit more space.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Nothstein? Seeing none, thank you very much. Okay, so we have it moved and seconded. All in favor? Moves to public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 7 concerns the Austin Heights neighborhood plan, and it's a response to committee questions regarding the proposed height density mixed-use area boundaries. The recommendation is that council provide direction to staff regarding the boundaries of the proposed high density mixed-use commercial core area for Austin Heights, considering the options as set out in the staff report.
Thank you. Is there a mover?
We have a small presentation.
Okay. By staff?
By staff.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Innes.
Yeah, Madam Chair, there's no particular presentation. This was a response back from the last Land Use Committee, a specific question. Staff have proposed a couple of options for the committee's consideration. We're heading into another round in early May of public consultation. with the committee's direction, we would take that and have that as part of the information we put out to the public in early May. Nadia Carvalho, who's the project manager on this, is available for, we can answer questions if needed.
Thank you, Nadia. I just have one question. So we would bring these, your suggestion is that we include Area 2 in the Legion site for consideration at the next round of public hearing, which would be the open house in May. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, and if you could, I'm just wondering with respect to Area 2, are you thinking of carrying the high density down there as well as the medium density apartments, or what would be carried right down into option 2 there?
So just to clarify, your question is in Area 2, what type of densities would be extended in that area? What we're suggesting?
That's right. What would you suggest for the open house?
The existing, the densities that are proposed to the west would be continued.
Okay, so you've got both medium density and high density.
It would be the high density mixed use.
Be red.
Okay, so just the high density then would be carried down there.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great. And that answers my questions. Thank you. Councillor Robinson?
I have some questions. I'm actually concerned that we would expand at all, mostly because, certainly at this point, mostly for a couple of reasons. One, those areas that have been identified have some really good affordable housing stock. And I just think it's premature to start looking at changing that. And I'm wondering if we can start with this core area and keep that as sort of the next place. So rather than spreading out our efforts, that if we started with this core area with the idea that 20 years out, as those things change, because I'm learning from being on the Maillardville Revitalization Task Force that these things take a long time. Then those places might at that point be ready for redevelopment. That my concern is if we identify them now, those areas might get redeveloped before the other areas. And I don't think that we're any further ahead. So I'm actually would prefer that we don't put those in the mix. And I don't know if that's an option here. Is that one of the options we can consider, is that we leave it as we've identified it? Carvalho?
That's certainly an option. Just to provide some additional background, Area 2 currently now is commercial only. So if the concept was extended to Area 2, that would just affect commercial businesses.
Okay.
Area 1 has a Legion and has one strata title property, one rental property, and then a market with residential above. So there are some
That's
options
helpful.
between if you'd like as well. Yeah.
That's very helpful. Okay, the other comment is that if we redevelop this whole area, if we identify it, could it potentially, I'm just thinking from the commercial side, could it potentially become unaffordable for new business startup? Is that a risk? I'm thinking about economic development, and my understanding is that sometimes you need in a city, you need affordable business startup places to start your business. I mean, you don't have a lot of capital, and if we take this area, which I think right now is probably some of the more affordable commercial zone in our city, do we put that at risk? Could we be shooting ourselves in the foot by developing this huge important piece of commercial? Because I do know that down here in city center, it's far more unaffordable, more difficult to get space because it's new. But our older stock actually helps. So I just want to make sure that we have variety in our city. Go ahead.
I'll give it a try. That's a potential, but it would depend on the market. So new space is generally more expensive than smaller, low-scale existing space. But it's unlikely that all of this commercial area would redevelop all at the same time. So again, it would depend on the market.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I need my crystal ball.
I'm just going to add my 2 cents here, and then Mayor Stewart would like to speak. I'm thinking to myself that I know that there was concerns. I spoke to a few people about the fact that we stopped the boundaries at Marmont, and we didn't include that part of Ridgeway along Blue Mountain there. So I really like staff's suggestion that we take those other 2 options to the open house so that we can provide feedback from both the residents and the businesses, because I do know that there was concern with the fact that we stopped it where we did. So I would like to see this go ahead as staff has suggested. Mayor Stewart.
Well, and that's kind of the clarification I needed, because in the middle of page 4 was options for council's consideration, and the question was asked, we're looking at the Legion site and Area 2 as being the natural one to increase if we wanted to expand the boundaries. And my understanding was, and it was clarified after Councillor Robinson asked the question, there isn't a single housing unit within those boundaries of those 2 sections. So we're not placing any housing units at risk. At that point, the housing units that might be at risk are in between the bottle depot site on Blue Mountain and the Legion along Ridgeway, and that's it. If we did choose to include Area 1. I'm not, and one of those buildings actually is in relatively good shape. I don't know that the other one, it may be at risk of redevelopment, but I didn't see then the risk that we would lose some affordable housing. As to the other question on affordable commercial, I think one of our problems in Coquitlam is we don't have any unaffordable. We don't have any relatively new commercial. We don't have that very much commercial that doesn't need redevelopment. And the Austin Heights Community or Business Association certainly recognizes the challenges associated with that. So I look to this as potentially being a catalyst for the gradual. It will always be gradual. Nothing happens as quickly as we want in most cases. But I suspect that this would be the catalyst for the gradual redevelopment of some of this land to the extent that market forces, and that means affordability, can spur it on. So I will support it.
Thank you. Councillor McDonnell.
Thank you. I'm in full support of both areas 1 and 2, but one thing that's not clear to me in the report, when we're discussing Area 2, are we will we be looking at having a residential component up over top of the commercial? And if not, I think we should be looking at it.
Yes, it would extend the high-density mixed-use concept to Gatensbury.
Good.
Okay, are there, Councillor Asmundson?
Thank you very much. I like the idea of these going out for the public for more consultation. I look at Area 1 as fitting immediately as a better block, sort of finishes off that area. And the other issue, though, is, now I lost my train of thought. The density above is going to be, like, when we do this development here and we move into option Area 2, are we going to be phasing this area so we have it tightly, like, is there a phasing plan as we go through this? In this, like, we've got the Blue Mountain to Marmont. Are we looking at trying to contain the phasing of the development in the area and through here, and looking at different areas in a different phasing structure?
Originally, we were proposing that compact note. Due to requests from, now we're extending it, and it would be the same, would be extended all along Austin Avenue from between Blue Mountain to Gatensbury. So the same opportunities would be there. Properties as they come, the right circumstances come up, would redevelop as
so we'd work it all together over a period of time.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be like from west to east type of phasing.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just before we move and second this recommendation, I just want to offer a small clarification. The staff, I've received from staff that this is actually that the committee provide direction. This item will not go on to council the following week. So 2 factors. One, just to make that clear, but also whether any council members here wanted to add something now, knowing that it wouldn't come to council next week.
Okay. Does anybody else wish to add something then?
Great, thank you. And just to note that from reading the bottom of the staff report, as you have, that it will come back for all of Council's consideration and referral to public hearing in July, I believe. So.
Right. So what is the committee's wish then?
I'll move it.
The motion is that we provide directions, so.
That's right. So staff is suggesting we include Area 2 and the Legion site for consideration in the next round of plan, which would be the open house, to take it to the open house for public consultation.
Actually, I have another question before I move it, if I might.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. So it comes from Councillor Asmundson, the train of thought that he lost and rediscovered again. I think it came to visit me over here. This idea of the process of redevelopment, I'm just looking at different options. So if we started with a smaller core, then we would see the core redevelop, if all things go as planned. And then later we could add these pieces in, and then those pieces would get redeveloped. So would we see a more organized redevelopment happen if we started with a smaller core? My thinking is if it's a bigger swath, then you get this haphazard in between for much longer.
Yeah, I think that one key benefit would be that elements of the public realm would link together much sooner, and that vision for the area would be realized much sooner, because the available properties that are available to be redeveloped would be located in closer proximity in a contained node.
Thank you. Okay. What is the wish of the committee?
I have one more question. I'll just.
Okay, Mayor Stewart.
And I hope this will help. If we included lands, if we're only going forward for public consultation, and as I said earlier, I'm always in favor of having the public weigh in on questions. And we have some question related to the land that seems to be in question is between the Legion and a recycling depot along Ridgeway, the north side of Ridgeway. I suggest perhaps we just include it at this point. And allow the public to comment if they want. If the public had some concerns about that, maybe they say clearly we exclude it. And when the report comes back to council, back to this committee, and then eventually to council in July, we'll have before us some comments related to the lands in question, and we'll be able to say, don't like that.
I second that.
Okay.
And I'm wanting to ask staff that when you do this consultation, that you inform people about what it means to go bigger. That when we go bigger, it means it looks more haphazard. A more condensed area means that things will move along at a different clip, and then you can go out more concentrically, which it'll just have a different transitional feel. And I think people need to know that as they give us.
So that would be included in the pros and cons that you'd present at the open house.
Yes, Madam Chair, that'll be included. Good, clear information in terms of the pros and cons.
Okay,
language.
so we'll include all three options then and take them forward to the open house. So all in favor of doing that? Thank you.
Thank you. Item 8 concerns minutes of the Maillardville Commercial and Cultural Revitalization Task Force meeting held Thursday, March 4th, and recommendations to receive those minutes.
Move receipt. Moved by Councillor Robinson. Second. Mayor Stewart. All in favor? Thank you.
Item 9 concerns minutes of the Riverview Committee meeting held Wednesday, March 24th, and the recommendations to receive those minutes.
So moved. Second, Mayor Stewart. And there is...
Perhaps we could just vote on that, that part first.
Okay. All in favor? Carried.
One item of business arising out of that committee's meeting concerns Riverview redevelopment, and the advisory committee's recommendation is that the chair of the Riverview committee write a letter to the province inquiring about the contents of the soon-to-be-closed Riverview and forensic libraries and promoting the benefits of institutional care for some types of mental illness.
So moved. Okay. Moved by Councillor Robinson. Second.
I won't be second. I have a bit of a concern. That's all.
You want to second it for discussion?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Stewart.
And
go ahead.
And I do have a bit of trouble with the idea that a committee that is charged with securing the long-term the future of a piece of land in our community would propose to write to the minister responsible for a hospital and tell them about the benefits of institutional care. And so that's my challenge, is that I think that perhaps some wordsmithing there, it might be that we're actually talking about the importance of that site as a provider as a venue for mental health services delivery in the history of the province and in the future of the province. I think that's fine. And I think what the committee may well have meant was promoting mental health services delivery on the site. And so I only raised that one thing, and since the motion's been seconded and I see some nodding, I'll remove my objection.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Stewart. Is there did I see somebody else's hand? Councillor McDonnell.
Thanks. And I'm totally on board with Mayor Stewart on this one. I'm really glad that we've got a dedicated bunch here that are keeping an eye on Riverview and support them wholeheartedly. However, I have, as does the rest of council, I have a little bit of an issue with one of our advisory committees communicating directly with the province and not through council. And I think that's the way you were going with that. And I would hope that this committee would be able to look at that and say, well, instead of it going from the Riverview committee, come to council and have council endorse it.
Thank you.
I'll move an amendment that this be put forward to council, and that the letter could then be, if council wishes, be signed by the chair of the committee and the mayor, or all of council, or whatever we wanted to do at that point.
Is there a seconder?
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay.
Because
Councillor Robinson.
I think we're all on the same page in terms of what it is that we want. It's just how to go about getting it that I hear some I guess dissension about what's the best way to go. And I think and perhaps it is a joint letter. I think there's some value in the community, and I see the Riverview committee representing the community. Speaking directly. It doesn't have to just come from council, because I think it's a different voice. So I don't think there's anything wrong with an advisory committee sending a letter that is supported by council. I think we can endorse them doing that. I don't know that it has to come from this body, because I think they have a voice that's separate and distinct, and I think it's a more direct voice than ours. But perhaps the way around it is a joint letter from the committee and from council giving the same message.
I was just going to suggest that as well, because my Multiculturalism Advisory Committee just forwarded a name for the Paul Usick Award, and that went to council, and then it went out. And both names were recognized on the document that we sent out. So can I get an answer from staff? Would that be suitable?
Yes, through the chair, we can certainly do it that way. We can draft the letter and vet it through council, and then it can go out under the mayor's signature and the committee chair's signature. Council wishes.
Okay, Councillor Sikora.
Thank you. I'm one of the committee members, and the fact is that, it's very, very clear what's happening here. The fact is the provincial government has got 210 patients there. In the next few months or next year or so, they're going to move them out of there, totally. What does it leave Riverview Hospital as? A land for redevelopment, as far as I'm concerned, and nothing more, nothing less. The fact is that, it's a sneaky way of going about to do the things that they want to do. So that's why the letter is going from the chair, and the committee was very adamant that they're unhappy with what's happening. And I think we need to really be careful what is it that we're doing here in these council chambers and have the provincial government leapfrog all over us.
She's not using that. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Sikora. I saw Councillor McDonnell press his.
Just as and I agree, it's an important message to get out, and it's one that we need to get out. But it's also one I think that we need to come to grips with our advisory committees, because advisory committees are there to advise council. And if we have them, if we allow them the leeway of being able to communicate with different levels of government without first going through council, I think that's setting a bad precedent.
Thank you. Mayor Stewart.
I was going to say that. I was going to actually add 3 points I wanted to make. That was one of them. This is an advisory committee to council. And I do want council to be able to add their voice if that's what council wanted to do, but ultimately this is an advisory committee to council. And I don't want to stifle the voice, certainly. There is a couple of clarifications. First of all, there won't, in 2 years, there will still be patients on the site. There are 4 facilities right now that continue to have patients. That's Cypress, Cottonwood, Connolly, and the Coast Mental Health delivery of 44 beds as well. So those ones are anticipated to continue. In fact, 3 of those buildings are brand new. But there's no question that the Riverview Hospital component, which is a provincially run facility, is scheduled to be phased out. So we do have to engage the provincial government. And my third point is the purpose of all this is to engage the provincial government, is to exert influence on the provincial government, to make sure the dialogue is as strong as we can possibly make it. And the way to do that is certainly a community group, that's fine, but council should weigh in as well. So an advisory committee to council should be asking council, and it may well be that council decides to send its own letter in addition to the committee's letter, and that's fine, whatever. It may be that council doesn't decide to do that, but ultimately council will have that decision to make when it comes before us.
Thank you, Mayor Stewart. Mr. Clerk, we have to do a vote on this. Could you just repeat the amendment, please?
Sure. I'm going to try and weave the two together just to capture the discussion.
Thank you.
That the chair of the Riverview Committee prepare a letter to the province and following the remaining text, but that this letter be referred to council for endorsement prior to delivery.
Okay.
No?
Doesn't work for me. So if I might try.
Go ahead, Councillor Robinson.
That a letter coming from council and the chair of the advisory committee together. So one represents the advisory committee's voice and one represents council's voice, the 2 signatories, to address this. That it's a joint signed letter from both.
Okay.
Can I just seek clarification from staff? If something like this is referred to council for approval and both signatures go out, then is it not the same thing?
I would say from a records perspective, you either have 1 letter or 2 letters.
No, but 1 letter with 2 signatures on it.
You want to write a letter?
Which we've done before on others.
Which we can do before, but I think the issue of the role of the advisory committee as an advisory body to council, it would have to be clear in the letter who is the roles of each and why they are writing.
Okay.
Okay.
Seeing that there is
it possible then for the motion, Madam Chair?
Mayor Stewart, go ahead.
Is it possible for the motion to say that the committee endorses the Riverview Advisory Committee's request for correspondence to the province on these issues and that the matter be referred to council?
I'm fine with that.
Fine.
Okay.
Council will make a decision with a blank slate to
All
some
right.
degree.
Okay. So that is the amendment that we will vote on. So all in favor of that? Thank you.
That is the last item on the agenda.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Thank you.
Yeah.